This is TSN Inside Sports.
Today allows me to make a very happy and historic announcement in the life of the CFL, namely that after 9 years' absence, Canadian professional football will once again be played in Montreal starting in 1996. At the end of the day, we are also confirming that we will not have any United States-based teams competing in the CFL in 1996.
We welcome you to TSN Inside Sports. I'm Dave Hodge. The words of CFL Chairman John Tory were not unexpected. Montreal is back in the Canadian Football League in the form of the Grey Cup champion Baltimore Stallions, minus some of their players from last season and plus some Canadian content on the field. How much Canadian content? That is to be determined, which of course does not answer the question that will hang over crucial negotiations with the Players Association. Meanwhile, the U.S. side of the CFL was officially discontinued today, perhaps to be revisited. The CFL did acknowledge many mistakes in its age of U.S. expansion and says it hopes to learn from them in any future American endeavors. But we will let the league speak for itself by welcoming Commissioner Larry Smith from the CFL meetings in Edmonton. Larry, you always wanted to shepherd the CFL back to Montreal, but I'm sure not at the expense of the league's best U.S. location and 4 others. How mixed are your feelings today?
Well, Dave, right now I am really pleased about getting back into Montreal. Jim Spiros is the right guy at the right time. It's unfortunate that he was not able to make it in Baltimore, but we all know what happened, and it's well documented. As for other U.S. owners, everyone agreed that maybe it was time to take a step back and take some breathing space and give it a chance to really analyze and think about what the best way of building that market is long term. The real issue, Dave, is our owners cannot continue to take that same type of risks they were taking in these markets and expect to survive.
What are the conditions of Baltimore's move to Montreal?
Well, basically, we have a great stadium lease, which seems to be in place. We have all the documentation. The city is going to assist Jim and his group in terms of some relocation assistance. And, of course, Jim and Michael Gelfond and Marv Sturz as his partners have committed financially to make sure that they would underwrite any cash calls for that club. So those 3 ingredients are really in place and ready to go. And there's a lot of people, Dave, who have been working behind the scenes in Montreal for 4.5 years to get this thing done.
Is Jim Spiros willing to play with 20 Canadians if he has to?
Well, we're going to sit down with the union, Dave, and discuss a strategy. We're going to have Canadian players in the Montreal franchise, but we'd like to sit down and talk to the players about our plans and put it past them first before we make any public statements.
So your plans are not to have 20 Canadians in Montreal?
Well, I would suggest to you that we'd like to have a transition strategy, but I think a strategy that would be acceptable to the fans and all the other CFL cities and to the Players Association.
Is there a consensus within the league, within the current teams, the existing teams, the governors, on how many Canadians there should be in Montreal, or do you have to come up with that number yourself before you can take one to the players?
No, we have a consensus, Dave, and I'm happy to say a unanimous consensus with all the ownership interest throughout this league. So we feel that we'll be able to sit down and work it out with the players to everyone's satisfaction.
So can you tell us the number of Canadians in Montreal that the rest of the league would like to see?
I certainly can't, Dave, but I can tell you we're going to have some great Canadian ball players in Montreal.
What about other dealings with the Players Association regarding financial matters? Is this all tied together? Do you expect to have some late nights and acrimonious sessions, or can all this be worked out?
Well, I think we can work it out, Dave. I sat and I talked with Dan Ferroni and his executive committee in the last day or two, and we've been trying to get together with the players, and I think they sort of feel a sense of urgency also. I think what they were waiting for was to see where everything would shake out, which is normal. Now that it has, it's time to sit down and put a deal together. And you know, I only compliment Dan and his group that they've always been level-headed, and we feel the same way. And obviously, we have a mutual interest to satisfy. And you know, there's no showboating in this deal. Basically, it's to get it done and get together and get this league moving forward for 1996.
But must expenses come down?
There's just no question, Dave, that we have to be able to restabilize the economic balance of this league so that we can create value and grow our business. And, you know, I think we have the mechanism to do it. And obviously, we're going to need some cooperation with the players, but it can be done.
I must ask you about the 1997 Grey Cup. Will it be held in Montreal?
Well, right now we're going to wait till mid-April to make any decision on the 97 Grey Cup, and we think it's better to let Jim and Dr. Gelfond try to come back to us with some plans, and at the same time we'll see what some of the other clubs have up their sleeves. But by April 15th, we'll have a position for the 97 Grey Cup in place.
Philosophically, are you and the rest of the league committed to try U.S. expansion again?
Well, yeah, I think it's important to understand, Dave, that we think we've made some great strides in the last 3 years in the United States. Before 1993, very few people knew about the CFL. And we think that we've shown people that we can play football in that country. But the reality is that we have to have a better formula so our owners are not facing 99% of the risk. In the NFL, they have seat sales, licensing sales, they have sponsorships in place before the NFL even considers a site. In our case, of course, we were, open-armed and walked into these markets with no real positioning, and you really can't do that in business today.
But even if you have a terrific 1996 season with 9 Canadian-based franchises, you think you'd still try to go to the States again?
Well, let me put it to you this way. We're going to sit down, we're going to have a good think tank session, we're going to take a step back, review what we've done right and wrong, learn from our lessons, and then we'll make some decisions down the road. So I'm not going to make any comments or commitments to 1997 yet, Dave, because we haven't even started in 96.
Does Larry Rickman's trouble away from football affect the Stampeders' standing within the league or his?
No. I think it's really important to be able to segregate the two situations. Larry's been a great owner for our league, and it's unfortunate that he has these other business problems, but that is not really within our realm of responsibility or judgment. As long as he does what he does best for the league, we're very supportive of Larry. And of course, Larry has to sit back and reflect and decide his own future, and he's going to tell us exactly where he wants to go in the coming weeks.
You can't be commissioner of the CFL without worrying about something, so what's your biggest concern right now?
I'll tell you, my biggest concern is getting home and seeing my son play in the hockey tournament up in Aurora this weekend for the McPherson Trophy.
Thank you, Larry. Good luck.
Thank you.
So the Stallions are on their way to Montreal, probably to become Alouettes, but the bigger question is, who will coach them? When we come back, we'll ask some questions of the owner of the Montreal team, Jim Spiros, and the head coach of the Baltimore team last season, Don Matthews.
TSN Inside Sports, brought to you by new 7-Up Light. Clear your mind.
Jim Spiros and his Baltimore Stallions are the proud holders of the Grey Cup, and now they prepare as quickly as possible to defend it as the Coupe Grey. Jim, I think I heard you say this might be your best day in football. This beats winning the Grey Cup?
Well, this is certainly a great day for our football organization. It's been very difficult the last 75 days. After you won the Grey Cup, we had to look for a new home, and we talked about a soft landing. I feel like I've landed in a pot of gold. Montreal is a tremendous city, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of bringing football to Montreal and getting people excited about football after 8 years without having Canadian football.
Did you have a viable choice? Is there any way you could have stayed in Baltimore? Was there any way you could have moved to Houston?
It made it very difficult to stay in Baltimore. There was a lot of doors shut in our face, and it didn't make financial sense to try to battle against 2 NFL teams coming into the state of Maryland and competing against our football organization. I did look at a number of other U.S. cities, but Montreal clearly was the best choice for our football team. And I think being a member of the Canadian Football League, this was a great team move to move to Montreal and bring football back.
How does it look so good to you when there hasn't been a team there since 1987, and presumably others have considered doing what you're doing, taking the CFL back to Montreal?
Well, I think I've gotten a lot of support from a number of people in Montreal. The Olympic Stadium Committee has gotten behind our effort and put together a lease that we can live with long term. I wanted to control football at the venue. They gave me that opportunity. I think the NFL rumor is over in Montreal. We can be Montreal's football team and bring a lot of excitement to Montreal. So I'm happy about that, and I think that I'm bringing a football team that has a lot of credibility. Our record speaks for itself, and I feel very confident about our chances of being a winner in Montreal.
How many Canadian players do you expect to employ?
Well, we will have Canadians, and that was something that will be finalized and addressed with the union next week. So I'd rather just say right now that absolutely we are going to have Canadians, and we will be with the rest of the league as far as that's concerned.
You'll have as many as every other team will have?
Well, I didn't say that yet. We are going to be working towards that goal. Certainly in the future we will have the same amount. Right now there's a proposal with the union, and I think we owe it to them to hear it out first.
But are you prepared to accept any number that comes out of those negotiations, or do you have a guarantee of no more than fill in the blank?
Well, again, that'll be discussed next week, and I can say this: we are going to be playing with Canadians, and I feel that you know, the commitment's there. We're going to be playing football in Montreal.
There was a comment by Hugh Campbell, I think it was, that you should want to play with the same roster requirements as every other team. Do you want that, or would you like an advantage, so-called?
Well, I think that there's got to be a transition period here. We're moving a U.S.-based franchise. This has never happened in the league. There wasn't really any expansion format for Canada on how you develop an expansion team. So today we had to implement some rules that could make sure that a franchise could be successful in moving into Montreal. And all I want is to be treated fairly. What I asked for today from the governors, they agreed with me. This got approved by every team, so I can tell you that we're all on the same page.
You know now who will coach your team?
Right now, I plan on sitting down with Don Matthews, my coaching staff. It's been a long 75 days. This coaching staff is stuck by my side, and they want to know where we're going to end up. So we're going to sit down and discuss our future now with our football team.
But can you deal with Don Matthews before you know exactly what the makeup of your team is?
Well, I know the makeup of the team. You know, we have a number of free agents right now that we got to get signed. We have approximately 15 free agents that we're looking to get signed for next year. So we got a lot of things to take care of. We're going to make the move to Montreal next week, get this finalized and signed at a press conference, and then start with our football operations. We don't have any time to waste.
Last question, and we'll let you go. Jim, do you expect to be hosting the '97 Grey Cup?
Yes, I do. I plan on getting commitments from the city of Montreal. This is a great opportunity. This will be over a $50 million economical impact for the city of Montreal. This will be a fantastic event. Montreal has thrown a Grey Cup. They know what it's all about. And I've had so many things to take care of. The last thing I will get from Montreal are the proper guarantees so we can hold this tremendous event in November of 1997.
Thanks, Jim, very much.
Thank you.
Baltimore's coach last season was Don Matthews, and last night he was rewarded with his third Coach of the Year award. Whether or not Matthews stays with Jim Spiros and coaches in Montreal remains in doubt, as Matthews has had discussions with the Toronto Argonauts and has been told by Spiros that he can make a move if he wishes. Don, first things first, congratulations on another Coach of the Year award. I'm surprised you were surprised. You were the obvious choice, no?
Well, Dave, sometimes they use different criteria, you know, and had they used the same criteria this year, last year, I think Dave Ritchie would have won the award. So I really never know what criteria the award is being voted on. So to be honest with you, I was very surprised.
Well, the big question is, where might you win it again next year, and a Grey Cup too? Is your future any clearer now than it was this time yesterday?
Well, I think it is. You know, it's always been my intention to wait till Jim Spiros gets relocated, and he did do that today. And this evening, he and I and Michael Gilfon are all going to sit down, and we're going to talk about the future of the Montreal franchise and my future with them.
So it sounds as though, unless you hear something you don't want to hear, that you'd like to stay with him. Is that what I'm interpreting?
No, you know, actually, to be honest with you, you know, my conversation with them will be with them, and I really don't care to discuss it out of courtesy to them. We certainly need to sit down and talk with each other and make sure that we're all on the same page and that we've got enough of common ground to go on together.
It has been reported that you have to know what the makeup of the team would be, how many Americans, how many returning players, and how many new Canadians would be on the team before you can make up your mind, and that might be very understandable. Do you want those answers, and are they forthcoming?
No, that really has nothing to do with it, to be quite honest with you, and I do know all of those answers, but that was never anything under consideration. It's always been my premise that for me to coach, I'll work with whatever rules that are there for me to follow, and we'll try to do the best with whatever we've got to work with.
Don, tell me whether you think you have to make a decision quickly, both for yourself and for them and for the Toronto Argonauts and anybody else that might be interested in you.
Absolutely. It's imperative that we get this settled and then everybody can go on with their lives.
You were a big part of success in the United States, Baltimore namely, and yet you know the CFL as its traditional makeup suggests. You think the league is better off this way?
Well, I don't like to see anything not succeed. You know, I'm very disappointed that the other U.S. franchises are not going to be playing somewhere this year. There's a lot of good football players, and when things decrease in size like they have, a lot of people lose jobs, and that's very disappointing, and a lot of good friend coaches lose jobs. So I'm disappointed by that aspect of it. But what it's done, one, I think with the Grey Cup going south for the first time, I think it made the Canadians feel just how precious that cup is, and I think it'll be even more precious in years to come. It also has flooded the market with a lot of import players, and all of the teams north of the border now will be able to benefit from the dispersal of all these football players.
Don, again, congratulations. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you very much, Dave.
So the CFL looks ahead to football in Montreal, and when we come back on TSN Inside Sports, we'll look back at football in Montreal way back. Unlike the 5 U.S. cities that officially left the ranks of the CFL today, Montreal does have a grand Canadian football tradition. The question is, can it be rekindled? Here's Michael Whalen in Montreal.
It's been almost 10 years since the last Canadian Football League game was played in the city of Montreal. And when the Montreal Alouettes officially closed up shop in June of 1987, it marked the end of a century-old tradition. The first known football game, actually rugby football, played in Canada apparently took place in Montreal way back in 1865, when a team of English garrison officers stationed in Montreal took on a team of civilians from McGill University. 3 years later, the Montreal Football Club was officially established. By 1949, 3 Montreal teams had captured the Grey Cup, but it was during the mid-1950s that the Montreal Alouettes became an Eastern power, riding the pass and catch combination of Sam the Rifle Echeverry and the fleet-footed Hal Patterson to 3 straight Eastern titles, only to lose the Grey Cup to Edmonton all 3 years. The Montreal Alouettes stumbled in the 1960s, but they rebounded in the 70s with 6 trips to the Grey Cup and 3 championships. First, Montreal won the 1970 Grey Cup with Echeverry as head coach. Then, with Marv Levy at the helm and a core of players including Sonny Wade, Peter Delariva, Johnny Rogers, and Don Sweet, the Alouettes were champions again in 1974, downing the Edmonton Eskimos 20-7. And 3 years later, Levy's final year in Montreal, Edmonton fell again, this time at the Olympic Stadium, and the final score was 41-6. The Alouettes' on-field success translated into huge crowds at the Big O throughout the 70s. It truly was the glory years for Montreal football.
We were a front-page team. If, let's say, the Canadians or the Expos were playing on the same day that we played, we always shared the front page of the sports. I mean, the citizens of Montreal really embraced the football team. We had crowds as large as 70,000 in the glory years in the Big O.
Then trouble marched into Montreal in the form of Nelson Scalbania. The West Coast entrepreneur bought the team in 1980 and began throwing money at high-priced free agents, most notably quarterback Vince Ferragamo. When the high-price help flopped on the field, attendance went south as well. Scalbania's financial difficulties forced him to unload the franchise in 1982, and Charles Bronfman became the savior. Bronfman tried to make people forget the Scalbania debacle by changing the team's name to the Concorde. Unfortunately for Bronfman, the name change changed nothing, and when Norm Kimball was brought in to try and save the franchise, the Alouette name was reborn for the 1986 season. By that time, apathy might have been the most appropriate nickname, as the team averaged just 11,000 fans that season. By June of 1987, the franchise was officially done. Professional football returned to Montreal at the Olympic Stadium in 1991. This time it was the Montreal Machine. owned by Roger Dore, and the only Canadian franchise in the World League of American Football, they were relatively successful both on the field and at the gate. However, the league itself was far from a hit and suspended operations after just 2 seasons. When the WLAF resumed play for the 1995 season, there were no teams in North America. Returning the CFL to Montreal was not a league priority for some time. But since the day that CFL Commissioner Larry Smith took office in February of 1992, he has made it known that he would love nothing better than to see the CFL back in his hometown, the city where he was a running back and a slot back during the Alouettes boom years, 1972 to 1980. The question for Montreal sports fans today is, how do they feel about the possibility of the CFL returning to town once again?
Well, I think it's great. It's good for the economy, and I think the surveys show that if there's local participation and good representation, I think and a good team, championship team, I think people will show up.
I don't think Montreal is a place for football. I played football for 8 years in Montreal, and it doesn't seem like people are interested in that.
I think it's great for the city. Football has always been part of Montreal for the longest time, and it was a shame that it wasn't able to stay here. When we had the World Football League, the turnouts were great, so I think they'll be good with a good team coming to Montreal with the Stallions.
I think there'll be a lot of support for it because it is good football. There's no question about it, and the team that's being brought in is a great team. They won the Grey Cup. They've been in the Grey Cup before, and it's going to be nice to see football here again in Montreal.
For TSN Inside Sports, I'm Michael Whalen in Montreal.
Thanks for the report, Michael. I'll be right back with the Wendy's email of the week right after this.
TSN Inside Sports, brought to you by new 7-Up Light. Clear your mind.